Welcome back to PowerPoint 2, Part 2. Our PowerPoint begins on Chapter 21. It begins on page 381 in your textbook. Run-Ons. So what is a run-on? Well, a run-on occurs when two sentences run together with no adequate sign given to mark the break between them. So a run-on occurs when the sentences just continue on without any punctuation or signaling of a break. What are a few ways to join together two sentences correctly? Well, one way is through a conjunction. A conjunction is a group of words that we consider with the acronym fanboys. We might also use semicolons, or we could possibly use a period. By any chance, do you remember this show? This is NBC's TV show Blossom. As you can see on the left, this is Jenna Von Oy. In the middle is Blossom herself, and on the right is, of course, Joey Lawrence. If you know in the middle, you might have also seen this actress on Big Bang Theory. Who we're talking about today is on the left, Jenna Von Oy. She plays the character 6 on Blossom. Have you ever heard a person speak so quickly that it seems like they don't stop for a breath of air? The YouTube link I've provided is of Jenna Von Oy when she played 6 on Blossom. Her voice and her acting just keeps going and going and going. And this is a lot of what a run-on sentence does. It just keeps going without the correct pause. Or, if there is a pause used, it is not always the correct type of pause needed, such as a period, or semicolon, or comma followed by one of our conjunctions. A fused sentence. The first type of run-on sentence is called a fused sentence. This is just like the person who doesn't pause. It means that two sentences are fused and joined together. Here are a few examples. I like to run, he likes to run with me. Well, we know from our sentence skills that if we just speak the sentence aloud, we can already see the punctuation is needed. I like to run. He likes to run with me. We could either join this with a period or through a semicolon. Second example. Juliet never knew that Romeo died loving her. She thought he died selfishly. Well, how can we correct the second sentence to make sure that it is actually correct instead of fused? Well, Juliet never knew that Romeo died loving her. Semicolon. She thought he died selfishly, and we'd have a full, complete sentence. Another type of run-on sentence is the comma splice. A comma splice is when two sentences are fused together. Sometimes they are given a pause by a comma, but is not used correctly. Just because we insert a comma does not mean that the sentence is then correct. So here's our example. Today was my first day of class, comma, I liked it. If we know anything right now about subjects and verbs, we can see that today was, we have our subject and verb. After the comma, we have I as our subject and liked as our verb. What we should see is that these are two independent clauses that are now joined together with a comma. When we use a comma, it either comes after a dependent clause or it comes before one of our conjunctions. So one of our conjunctions we'll be talking about in a moment is our next method. So a comma splice. When we throw in a comma, we always need to make sure that we use it with conjunction or after a dependent clause. Do not just throw in a comma because you think there needs to be a break. Comma splices are one of the number one causes of a run-on sentence. Usually, the comma is used because writers see the need for a break or pause, but it isn't placed correctly. Comma splices, again, are the most common type of run-on. A comma isn't enough to cause a clear, strong break. What could you use? What type of punctuation could you use to cause a clear, strong break? Hopefully you understand that you could use, in this instance, a period. There are a few warning words for run-on comma splices. Again, I, you, he, she, it, we, they, their, this, that, now, then, next. Many of these words are pronouns. And then you have a few, such as the transition words like now, then, next. Well, how can we actually correct run-ons? The first, we can use a period and a capital letter to break up these two thoughts. Second, use a comma plus a joining word, a coordinating conjunction. These are the fanboy words that I just spoke about. It's the words for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. They make the acronym fanboys. As you can see down at the bottom of the screen, I have I, CCI. Number 2, when we say use a comma plus a joining word, the I, CCI means independent clause, followed by a comma, and then we use one of our fanboy words, the coordinating conjunction, followed by another independent clause, to create a full and complete sentence. We can also use, for number 3, use a semicolon to connect the two complete thoughts. A semicolon connects two independent clauses that work closely together. A semicolon helps two sentences stand together that cannot stand alone. Likely this means the second sentence may have a pronoun. A semicolon is used usually because the two sentences have a close relationship and they need to be tied together to make clear sense. Number 4, use subordination. So the first, a period and a capital letter. Where the break needs to occur between the two sentences, you should use a period and a capital letter. A period and a capital letter is the easiest type of correction that you can make to a run-on sentence. The second sentence correction could be a comma and adjoining words. Again, these are your fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. The word and, it can mean in addition to, along with. Your be, for but. However, except, on the other hand, or just the opposite, are all the things that but might mean after a comma. For, so if you use comma for, it can mean because. The reason that, the cause of something. You can also use comma so, as a result, or therefore. A comma and a joining word are a great way to make sentence sense. The next option, again, semicolon. A semicolon is made up of a period above a comma. It is sometimes called a strong comma because it's a period followed by a comma. So that's how a semicolon will look. A semicolon means that these two sentences belong together and they cannot be pulled apart. So that means if you have semicolon used in your writing and someone comes in to edit your paper, if you use your semicolon, it means that these two sentences belong right next to each other, and when you're editing, please do not take them apart. It just gives a proofreader a little bit of advice on how to edit your paper. Right now, if you would, complete review activities 3, 4, and 6, starting on page 385 to 388. Look at your sentences. How can you make them full and complete? With review activities 3, 4, and 6, starting on page 385 to 388, please make sure that you are keeping full track of these review activities. These review activities do not need to be turned in, but are a great place for you to start on reviewing different ways that you can change and correct run-on sentences. Subordination. As I've been talking about dependent clauses, subordination is a big part of creating full and complete sentences. Subordination. This shows that one thought in a sentence is not as important as another thought. So we just talked about making run-on sentences full, complete sentences. One way that we can do this is by subordination. If you see in the middle bullet, it says D, I. D meaning a dependent clause. A dependent clause is started by a subordinate word. This subordinate word usually means that a fragment will occur if it does not have an independent clause. Here's an example. Although this part of the sentence is needed, comma, it isn't as important as the main part. So, although is our subordinate word. That although starting the sentence, although this part of the sentence is needed, comma, that part truly could be eliminated from your sentence. It's just added detail to the sentence to make sure it's clear in understanding. As you can see next, it says it isn't as important as the main part. The main part is considered the independent clause. So for a subordinate clause, the sentence formula is either D, I or ID, meaning the independent part comes first, followed by the subordinate part with a dependent clause second. Here are a few common dependent words. After, although, as, because, before, even, though, if, since, unless, until, when, while. As you may notice, a lot of these dependent words are what our fanboy words meant. So you can use a comma in one of our fanboys, or in this instance, you wouldn't be using a comma to place in one of your dependent words. So review how to check for run-ons. Number 1. To see if a sentence is a run-on, read it aloud and listen for a break marking 2 complete thoughts. Your voice will probably drop and pause at the break. This is called sentence sense. Number 2. To check an entire paper, read each sentence aloud from the last one to the first one. So doing so will help you hear and see each complete thought. Number 3. Be on the lookout for words that can lead to run-on sentences. I, he, she, it, they, this, next, you, we, there, that, then. Number 4. Correct run-on sentences by using one of the following methods. You could use a period and capital letter, a comma and joining word, so your fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. You could use a semicolon, or you could choose you could use subordination. At this time, would you please complete review tests 1 and 3 on page 391 to 393. When you are complete with all your answers, email them to me. So again, complete review tests 1 and 3, page 391 to 393. And when you are finished, email your answers to me. This concludes Voice Over 2, Part 2.